had one of these moments the other day where I started thinking about this simple but incredible thing that I would not want to live without, and I wondered, how did it come to be a thing? And although I'm scared to know the answer, what did this thing's job before it existed? I'm gonna save that one for last since it's what inspired this video. Don't worry, the other ones I have for you today are pretty darn interesting, and I'll bet you use at least 5 out of 7 of these every single day. So let's get on with them. Sliced bread. Otto Frederick Roeder, a jeweler from Iowa, had a passion for tinkering and developed an obsession for inventing a bread slicing machine. He sold the jewelry stores he owned to finance the design and manufacture of his new machine. Then, in 1917, his blueprints and prototype were destroyed by a fire in the factory. But Roeder didn't give up. He kept going for more than a decade, and on July 7th, 1928, the first loaf of pre-sliced bread was sold in Missouri by the Chillicothe Baking Company, who bought Roeder's first machine. In 1943, to conserve wax paper, wheat, and steel for World War II, the federal government banned sliced bread in bakeries and homes. Restaurants, hotels, and railroad dining cars were allowed to offer sliced bread for 60 days as part of the ban. America went nuts. Look, these folks survived the Depression, saw their husbands and sons head off to war, needed rationing stamps to get everyday necessities, and anything metal was pretty much off limit. Now the government's taking away sliced bread? Well, thanks to the public outcry and the government realizing the ban really wasn't making that big of a difference, it was lifted less than 2 months after being imposed. The New York Times headline read, "Sliced bread put back on sale. Housewives' thumbs safe again." Windshield wipers. Mary Anderson, a passenger in a streetcar on a snowy day in New York City, couldn't help but notice how the driver kept having to stop and get out to clean off the windscreen. It was called a windscreen back then, not a windshield. It was no fun for the driver and caused delays for the passenger. She thought there had to be a better way. So when she returned home to Alabama, she sketched a design for a wiper that could be operated by a handle inside the vehicle, and it was easy to remove so it wouldn't be an eyesore during fair weather. She received a patent for her window cleaning device in November of 1903. She contacted manufacturers about her invention, but none were interested at the time. Eventually, windshield wipers would be a standard feature on every car, but Mary Anderson never saw a profit from her invention. The QWERTY Keyboard. In the 1800s, there was a strong interest in developing a machine that could make writing more efficient, but it was anything but a straight line from the need to the idea to the typewriter as we know it. It's said that the typewriter was invented about 50 times by 50 different people because so many were trying to create a machine that served the same purpose. Some of these inventions look more like pianos or foosball tables than a typewriter. While the mechanics of each machine were different from one another, so was the layout of the letters on the keyboard. Actually, some machines had a single row of letters, one looked more like a pincushion, but many started honing in on a more recognizable keyboard. Some versions had several rows of keys in alphabetical order, but legend has it, if someone was typing quickly, the keys would jam. One way to fix this was to rearrange the alphabet so common letter combinations were spaced apart from each other. Christopher Latham Scholes, along with Carlos Glidden and Samuel Soule, patented the QWERTY keyboard. However, the rest is not history. Inventors, including Scholes himself, continue to work on better ways to lay out the keyboard, but those improvements were largely ignored. Only a few minor tweaks to the original QWERTY patent were made early on, and it's remained the same now for over 100 years. The reason? Well, the typewriter business got big really fast. Typists were being trained on the QWERTY keyboard, and Remington, the first manufacturer, marketed it as the standard. Sure enough, that's what it became. Whether it's the best version or not, it's what we're all used to, and change doesn't seem to be on the horizon anytime soon. The zipper. In 1851, the inventor of the sewing machine, Elias Howe, patented an automatic continuous clothing closure, but he didn't pursue the manufacture or marketing of it. At the 1893 World's Fair in Chicago, Whitcomb Judson showed off a better version that he had developed, but it didn't get much traction. In 1917, Gideon Sunback, an employee from Judson's Universal Fastener Company in New Jersey, patented what he called the separable fastener, which improved upon Judson's design and looks like what we recognize today as a zipper, but it hadn't quite earned the name yet. No, it wasn't until the B.F. Goodrich Company started using the closure on rubber boots that it started being called a zipper, because of the sound it made when opened or closed. A few decades later, the zipper started to earn its rightful respect in fashion design. Esquire magazine touted that one of the benefits of using a zipper in men's trousers was preventing the possibility of unintentional and embarrassing disarray. I mean, who wants to suffer from unintentional and embarrassing disarray? I make videos about places in America, things from our past, and facts I hope you find interesting. If you want to see more like this, please do me a favor real quick and tap the subscribe button just below this video. The water heater. Having hot water on tap is such an underrated luxury. Before this modern creature comfort, the only way to get clean without freezing was to heat water in a pot over fire or the flame of a gas stove, then dump it in a tub and mix it with cooler water to get it just right, or at least tolerable, before you got it. Then in 1868, a house painter named Benjamin Waddy Mahan patented a water heater for the home which had cold water flowing through pipes from the top of the tank to the bottom bottom where it was warmed by a natural gas burner. It was called the geyser, named after an Icelandic natural hot spring. The problem, though, was that the geyser didn't have a flue to vent the hot gases, making it pretty dangerous. A Norwegian immigrant living in Pittsburgh named Edwin Rude improved upon Mohan's design, adding the necessary safety features, and patented the first water heater for homes in 1889. This invention is what made showers possible. Well, I guess it was possible without hot water, but definitely not practical. The storage tank water heater has seen many improvements since then, and tankless water heaters have come a long way as well. I sure am grateful that I don't have to heat water on a stove and dump it into a tub or use freezing cold water. The refrigerator. Imagine not having a freezer or refrigerator in your home. That sure would make life inconvenient and really limit our choices for midnight snacks. Before the refrigerator, there were few options to keep food from spoiling. You could keep things outside during the winter or underground. There was salt, smoking, drying, and later canning. Eventually, some homes had an ice box, which was a wooden box divided into a top and bottom compartment with a door on the front. A large block of ice would be placed in the top compartment to keep things in the lower compartment cool. As the ice melted, the water drained down a pipe running through the box. These things weren't capable of freezing water to produce ice, so the ice had to be harvested from frozen lakes and often shipped by rail or sea and then delivered to the homes of customers. Starting in the mid-1700s, inventors worldwide tried various ways to come up with practical home refrigeration. But the first model that really started to take off was the GE Monitor Top, which earned its name because the compressor that sat on top of the box looked like the turret on the Civil War battleship, the Monitor. They were very expensive, about the same price as a new car, so they could only be found in the most affluent homes. After the advent of Freon in the 1920s, which was a group effort by Frigidaire, GM, and DuPont, the refrigerator started to move into the fast lane. In 1930, only 8% of homes had one, but by 1940, that number was 44%, and 10 years later in 1950, the refrigerator was a common appliance. Thank goodness they were invented and made possible the existence of those delicious TV dinners. Yum. Toilet paper. Here is a real unsung hero of inventions. What would we do without toilet paper? Well, the ancient Romans used a sponge on a stick, and it wasn't disposable either. After it was used, the squatter returned it to a bucket of vinegar for whoever needed it next. Over the next few centuries, various papers were used in a few places around the world, amongst other things like broken ceramic pottery, cloth, and even shirt sleeves. In early America, common wiping tools included corn cobs, the most common, seashells, and the Sears and Roebuck catalog, until they switched to glossy pages. Paper started to become more widely available, and in 1857, New Yorker Joseph Gaiety patented medicated paper for the water closet. He sold the paper in packs of 500 sheets soaked in aloe, with his name printed on every sheet for 50 cents. By 1890, the Scott Paper Company started selling toilet paper on rolls and perforated sheets. But it wasn't an immediate hit. People were still using things like the Farmer's Almanac, which was commonly nailed to the outhouse wall, so in 1919, the publishers started producing their book with a single hole pre-punched. It wasn't until 1930 that the first splinter-free toilet paper hit the market. Just think about that for a second. After dinner, you stroll off to the outhouse, do your business, then when it's time for the paperwork, you're unpleasantly surprised by a splinter. Modern life has its inconveniences, don't get me wrong, but hey, at least we don't have that problem anymore.